Hello, UBC. Welcome back to the Tuum podcast. My name is Elliott.
My name is Amelia.
And we are your hosts for today's episode. The Tuum podcast is produced, recorded by the UBC Student Alumni Council, also known as the SAC. Before we get started with today's episode, we'd like to acknowledge that we are recording this episode from UBC's Vancouver Point Grey campus, which is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Hunkaminam-speaking Musqueam people. We also recognize that you may be joining us from many places near and far, and we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. So, what is the SAC? Let's do a little recap, Amelia.
Yeah, so the Student Alumni Council at UBC was formed to connect students with alumni and foster some campus pride. What we do is develop original programs, collaborate with campus partners, and just overall promote UBC's alumni network on campus as student representatives. You can follow us on Instagram for more updates at UBCSAC.
Great, thank you for that. So, we can just hop into the meat of today's episode.
Yeah.
So, as I'm sure you all know, final season is coming up
very quickly.
Very quickly, indeed. And so today we're going to be sharing some final exam horror stories and funny stories that, end up somewhat nicely from the UBC community, including two of our own SAC members.
Yeah, some of these have come from friends of ours, and then some of them are also coming from an r/UBC Reddit thread as well.
Mm-hmm. Very reliable sources.
Cool. So our first story comes from our friend Will, who is on the Student Alumni Council with us. Will says, "My very first UBC exam ever was supposed to be Spanish 100 at 8:30 a.m. in the SRC. I usually set my alarms for the next day the night before, and I'm super consistent with this. I didn't miss a single alarm all year. Of course, the one time I did miss the alarm was the night before the exam. I ended up waking up at 8:35 a.m. in an absolute panic. I sprinted to the SRC from Totem Park and arrived by 8:45. That walk usually takes about 15 minutes on its own. Luckily, they let me write the exam, and surprisingly, I did decently well on it."
Now, this one is funny to me because not only did the alarm get set late, but for those of you who are familiar with campus, Totem Park is a hike away from the SRC.
Honestly, Totem Park's a hike away from everything.
It really is. Like, if you're not taking the 68 bus, I don't know how you're getting there with any energy left.
So to get out of bed and to the SRC in 10 minutes, that's a feat of its own.
That is. Yeah. Goodness, I couldn't even get there from the nest in 10 minutes at my pace. Well, okay, so this next story comes from a Reddit user, and it goes, "In my first year, after walking around haplessly in the rain, trying to figure out where Osborne Center was, I stroll into the gym and see my friend turning in their exam. The problem, this friend was not in my class. I felt a sense of panic. I considered Mr. Bean's advice of moving to Nepal and living my life out as a goat. I thought I was about to fail out of UBC in my first semester, but this exam was not my Poly 110 final, it was my Spanish 205. I got the dates mixed up. My exam wasn't today, it was yesterday. I walked out of Osborne and kept walking, and eventually made it to the UBC bus loop. Sopping wet, still panicked. After talking it over with my parents, I sent an email to my TA and prof, and they mercifully gave me a standing deferred status and allowed me to write the final, with a couple of catches. They'd deduct some percentage for me being an absolute idiot, and they'd have me write the exam next semester. But I'm still here and on track to graduate. Seems like Osborne is a cursed place to take an exam."
I like that one because it's like, you know what? No matter what happens, you will be fine.
You will be fine.
You'll get through it.
You'll get through it. You'll end up on the other side.
To be fair, I have not taken an exam in Osborne yet.
I will say it is a bit of a maze. There are a couple buildings, and there's like multiple gyms in some buildings, so you can get the runaround there.
Oh,
but
boy. Okay, good to know for the future that that's a cursed place. All right. Our next story also comes from Reddit. 10 years ago in Math 104, my first ever time teaching, during the midterm exam. It was rainy out, so everyone had umbrellas at their seats. Students get about 5 minutes into the exam, then as I'm scanning the room, I see this one student try to move her umbrella from one side of the desk to the other. Only the umbrella is one of those push button things. She accidentally triggers it, and the handle flies back into her face, and her nose immediately starts shooting blood all over her clothes, hands, and exam. I'll never forget the... Thankfully, she's seated second from the aisle, so I flag her out and get her to go to the washroom. Meanwhile, I call campus services for cleaning SOS and move a few students away from the scene. It looks like someone was stabbed. Blood all over the seats and floor. Bloody footprints. Bloody exam pages. I step back outside to see if the student cleaned up, and she's crying hysterically with a roll full of toilet paper jammed against her nose. It's her first semester at university and her first exam, too. I sent her home and let her take the midterm next week. She did fine, a B or B+, as I recall. I now always remind all students to secure their umbrellas underneath their seats or at the front of the room before an exam begins. Oh boy.
That's a good one because
I like that one a lot.
It's like, it's one of those things you don't think happens to people, not especially not you. And just goes to show you, A, always be on alert, and B, your profs are human too, and this one came from a prof.
Exactly. So. This is definitely everyone who was in that room, like that's their story that they tell now.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, for sure. All right, so this last story comes from another SAC member, our friend Cody. He sent us in a clip, so we're going to listen to his story.
Yeah, okay, so this was first year, second semester, and it was the chemistry 123 exam. And like usual, absolutely way behind on all of the content. So I still had the full day to study. So it was the night before the full cram day. Took the time to write the exam practice that we had available to us. Went through the whole thing, got it back 27%. It was like 11:30 at night. I absolutely panicked, went to bed, woke up 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I watched every single video that the organic chemistry tutor had on chemistry, went through all of the content from the entire course, went right from 6 o'clock until 1 o'clock in the morning, went to bed, woke up at 7:30, crushed a banana, liter of water, headed down to the exam, and finished with an 82 in the course. So if there's a note to take from this, it's that it's never too late.
Oh, that's a good one.
I like that one a lot. So yeah, if you feel like you're going to get a 27% on your final right now, it's not too late. You have more time than Cody.
You have more time than Cody, folks. That's great.
Yeah.
I will say, final exams are something that can be so predictable yet so unpredictable sometimes. You'll get those profs that fully lay out, like, this is what's going to be on the exam. Here's the structure. Here's the format. You're getting this many questions, this many marks here and there. You'll get some profs that are like, we're going to bring something. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to show up.
Exactly. And so the only thing you can really do is just prepare yourself, right? All right, so we're going to get into some resources and prep items for final season. And so, one of the things that I like to do to keep myself prepared for finals is to make sure I schedule things out, and I do a lot of prep work. I want to take the work off of future Elliott and really just do it while I'm in low stress mode. So the first thing I do, go to my exam schedule, pull up the SSC, pull up the exam schedule, and put all those exams into my calendar. That's what I do. Find the dates, find the times, and the locations. That's a big one.
If they're in Osborne, you want to know.
Exactly. And so I put all that in my calendar, make sure I've got the times correct, make sure I've got the places correct, and also make sure I know how to find those places, because you don't want it to be 8:20 a.m. and you're like, where is the SRCA? Yeah. So that's what I do to start out. Just get yourself set up for success, folks. And then make sure that none of your final exam dates have changed.
Yes.
That happens.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. My first year, my English 112 exam, which is now Words 150, but it got moved like a couple days in the future. So it was fine, right? And they'd made emails about this, but first years, we're not always checking our emails. So it was fine. But make sure you check like maybe a good week before the exam. They won't change it that close. So once you've seen that, you're good to go. Get that schedule set up. And then for your studying, goodness, look at what exams you have, see what order they're in, see if you have any, see if they're spaced out, if they're crammed together. That'll help you plan out your studying and also thinking about what courses do I have coming up earlier. Think about the type of content that you've got, right? Mm-hmm. Language courses. I'm currently taking Latin and Greek medical and biological terminology.
Oh my goodness.
And that is not something you can cram in a day.
Yeah. It's also very different. I'm in a lot of classes that have very different content going on. Mm-hmm. So for my English literature, that's a very different, the studying for that looks very different versus like forensic anthropology. Know all the bones in the body. Takes different parts of your brain.
Definitely.
Yeah. Something I like to do as like final season starts looming is to centralize all my materials. I find that when I get to the end of the semester, I've got a handful of notes in my Google Docs. I've got some physical ones on paper. My phone notes app usually has something. I've got like screenshots of different slides if the prof was talking too fast. Just kind of notes, or my Notion app might have a few things on there.
Yeah.
Just kind of things everywhere. So the first step that I take when I'm prepping for finals is to get them all into the same place. Whether that's into Google Docs, into Notion, into whatever I'm feeling for that class. Having them all in one spot and all in order really helps. It also helps you organize all the material in your head because you do have to revise it to put it back into whether you're rewriting it out or typing it out. And it makes it easier to start studying. You can't procrastinate when you have the whole thing in front of you all in one place.
So true. Thank you for that.
I also, that's kind of in prep for finals, but then as final season actually starts, classes are over, getting into routine is a big thing. Because often your exam schedule will look different to your everyday schedule or to what your... Often your exam schedule will look different to what your everyday schedule was. So you better start shifting so you're not caught off guard. If you have 8:30 a.m. finals and you don't typically get up by that time, it's going to have to start. Going to bed at the same time, getting up at 8:30, and actually studying at 8:30 if you have those early exams so that your brain's in the go time mode.
Yeah, exactly. I would say studying in exam conditions is so important. So yes, as you said, studying at 8:30 in the morning, making sure that not all your friends are talking to you at the same time, making sure that if it's a closed book exam, you're not using Google, you're not using your notes, use that brain of yours, open that noggin, access that knowledge, and prep yourself. It'll make it so much easier when you're in those exam conditions in the real exam to recall facts and things when you've been practicing in that environment. And so while you may not be able to go sit in the middle of the SRC and pull out your textbooks, you can still do your best to set up your space at home. Putting your phone in a different room, not studying with, I know we love music, but maybe you take off the headphones and keep your ears out there.
Yeah.
No. And then, sure, have some water, have some snacks, maybe the occasional tear. But
really simulate the exam experience.
Exactly, but really replicating those exam conditions is going to make your studying so much more helpful and effective.
Yeah. I feel like it reduces the anxiety on the day as well. Like if you go in and it's like, oh, I haven't studied like this before. I haven't taken my headphones out in months. It's going to be a lot less anxiety inducing if you kind of know what to expect.
Now, one of the things with COVID, studying with a mask on.
Ooh.
Now, this is a side note. I didn't do this for, I guess, I haven't had finals with COVID yet, so in person at least. But I'd written the MCAT last summer, and it was COVID times, right? And so best thing I did, practice exams with a mask on.
Interesting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, sit down 7.5 hours and just your ears are like raw, but you know what? It'll help. Cause yeah, I guess it's not something you think about actively. Like,
yeah. And something so easy to practice too, just like study in a library on campus.
Exactly.
You have to wear a mask anyways.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the pro tip from today's episode.
Cool. Well, that is all from us today. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you had a little laugh at some of the horror stories and maybe got a takeaway or two. You can follow us on Instagram at UBCSAC to see everything that we're up to. And to get more podcast episodes, we're available on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for tuning in.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.